Hey everyone, my name's Calvin and welcome to my video tutorial. And in this video I'm going to show you how to paint this sort of island forest scene. And it's pretty heavily influenced from another artist named Iraville. And I'll put links to her website in the description. And you can check out some of her work and maybe get inspired as well. I'm going to use the Storybook watercolor paper texture. But you can use any texture. I just think this one is really suitable because it has this kind of very simple, very finely grained kind of texture. And the brushes I'm going to use are just the normal watercolor brushes from the normal watercolor kit. So I think the first thing I'll do is make a quick sketch. And usually I use the pencil to do the sketch, but I know that's hard to see on these videos. So I'm going to use the fine liner pen. Hopefully that'll be a little easier to see. So I'll make my sketch very light, just so I can barely see it. And I'm just going to start by doing the trees. So I'll make a new layer. I'm going to make sure I'm on a different layer than the pencil sketching. I'm going to work underneath it. And since this scene's going to be kind of an autumn scene, I'm going to choose a pretty warm color for the trees. And I'll just fill those in with the soft Neptune quill brush. So I'm happy with that. I'm just going to grab the water blender brush and just sort of get rid of some of those hard edges that just don't look quite right. But I'll make sure I leave some of them behind because I do like the look. And after I've got it blended, I'm going to use the eraser tool and just try to clean up some of the edges because I did go way out of my sketch lines. There we go. I think that's cleaned up pretty well. Now I'm going to sort of separate these trees on the side using the selection tool and then change the color that way. You don't have to do it this way, but I really like this kind of little trick here. So I'll grab the selection tool and make it set to freehand. And I'll just sort of follow the outline of one of these trees, just like that. I'll go to my hue, saturation, and brightness adjustment. And then I can maybe sort of offset the color a little bit. And I'll just play with it until I find a nice sort of autumn color. I think that's pretty good. And I'll do the same thing for the other one. And hue, saturation, and brightness. But this time I'll do it kind of green, I think. There we go. That's pretty good. There's one more trick I'm going to do with the trees. I think I'll turn off the sketch just so I can show you this a little easier. So this tree in the background, it's behind. And I want to add a shadow there. So I'll grab my selection tool and I'll just select sort of just away from these trees on the side just a little bit. And then I'll feather that one out. And then I'll go to my hue, saturation, and brightness. And I'll just brighten the middle. And that leaves the dark edges kind of, I leave them dark. Then maybe I'll shift the hue a little bit. And I'll make another selection here, just getting the inside of these trees. And I'll click the plus to do another one. And then the plus again to do this last tree. And then I can feather all three of those at once. So I'll feather all of those out and then go back to my hue, saturation, and brightness. And I'm just going to shift the hue of the center of all of these. So let's try that. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And lower the saturation. I think that's pretty cool. It just gives this kind of dynamic color look there that I like. So I'll zoom out here and turn on my sketch again. Okay, now I'm going to do the island next. So I'll make another layer. And I'm going to do that with a kind of a sort of desaturated soft green color. And I'll use the same brush as before, the soft Neptune quill. Okay, that's pretty good. I think I'll just clean up the edges with the eraser here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I want to add a kind of a color ombre effect. So I'll select the little island like that, and then I'll feather it out. And then I'll go to hue, saturation, and brightness, and do a similar thing that I did to the trees. I'll just sort of lighten it and then maybe shift it towards yellow just a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's see. Okay, and then I'll deselect that. Now I want to grab that selection tool again here, and I want to add a kind of an edge to this island. So notice how I'm kind of foreshortening it on these curves, but then I open it back up again like that. Just so I've selected the very edge of the island, kind of imagining if it's like a three-dimensional thing. And then I'll lower the brightness, lower the saturation, and maybe shift the hue to kind of a brownish color. Actually, I think that is a little bit too dark. Let's try. There, that's pretty good. And I'll deselect that. Now I'm going to do the dark forest detail back here. So I'll make yet another layer and then grab the selection tool. It's still set to freehand, and I'll just try to freehand the difference, the boundary here between the trees and the island. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Just like that. And it's totally okay if it's not perfect. And since I'm on a totally blank layer here, I'll use the same brush, soft Neptune quill, but I'll select a pretty dark color. And if I set this brush pretty big and I press hard, it'll be kind of gray. And I'm pressing hard and soft to get this kind of natural, it's kind of like a streaky effect, I guess. It's because if you press this brush softer, it does lighten up a little bit. And if you notice in a few areas, you missed it and you have these white spaces. I personally think that looks pretty cool, but if you want, you can deselect it, just zoom in, and then use the water blender brush and just sort of push those edges in just so they meet it a little bit closer. And it's okay to go over the edge just a little bit into the trees, because since we're on a totally separate layer, we can use that eraser brush and just go in there and clean it up. And this will make it look a little bit more perfect, but don't get carried away. It's personally, I think a lot of the imperfections with watercolor is what makes it so cool in the first place. So I'm happy with that. I want to add some detail in the shadows. And there's a few ways you could do that, but I'm really loving the selection tool for this kind of artwork. So I'll grab it again, and as long as it's on freehand, I can just sort of outline some imaginary trees kind of out there in the distance. There, you can see I just drew some sort of outlines of tree trunks like that. And I'll go to hue, saturation, and brightness and just raise the brightness, and they just sort of come out of the darkness there. So we'll deselect that. And next, I'm going to do the tree trunks. And I think I'll hide the sketch for now. I'm going to do the tree trunks on a totally separate layer. And I'll do the brown ones first. The middle one's going to be white, but these will be brown. So I'll select sort of a light brown color over here. And same brush, the soft Neptune quill. It's really ideal for this kind of artwork because it has a lot of layering power. So medium size, and we'll do this one real quick. And don't worry about the bottom. We'll use the eraser and cut that off later. Just add a lot of little branch details over here. You don't have to go crazy with it, but it does look cool if you add these little splits at the end. And do the same thing to this one over here, but I think I'll shift the color just a little bit more towards yellow, just to make it a little more interesting. And I'll do a different pattern on this tree. I'll just use the eraser real quick and square off the bottom of these tree trunks. Just like that. And I think we can do my favorite part here is it's the white tree trunk. So I'm still going to do this, I guess I'm going to do this on the same layer as I did the brown ones. I'm just going to grab a pure white color, same brush, maybe same size, and I'll just do the white tree trunk. This is going to be like a birch tree. And I do have some sort of transparency going on here, so I'll do another layer of it. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll square the bottom of this one off. So I think this tree is kind of in the distance, so I'll just match the curve of the little island here. There we go. And I want to add these sort of horizontal lines to it so it looks sort of like a birch tree. So I'm going to grab the selection tool, but I'll use the automatic one this time. And if I click on the white and then start dragging, you'll notice it turns black right away. If I drag too much, kind of everything will get selected. There we go. Everything will kind of turn blue. That means you've gone too far. You need to back it off a little bit until it stays black. So I'll do that one more time. Just grab the selection tool on automatic and just click and drag until only the white tree trunk turns black. Then I'll go to my brush again and I'm going to select a very, very, very light gray, I guess, and small size. And what's happened here is if I, when I made that selection, it sort of masked off this trunk. So when I draw, I don't have to make sure I end exactly at the edge. It'll just automatically sort of cut it off when it goes over. And I'll just quickly go over this and add some of these horizontal lines. After I do this first layer of them, I'm going to grab maybe a slightly darker version of that color and do a few dark ones. Just a couple dark ones. And then I'll grab a really light version and just add a few more like that. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. So I'll deselect it, and then we'll zoom out here. I want to turn my sketch back on. So there we go, that one. And I still got to do my rocks and my cattails. So I'm going to add another layer on top of this. And maybe I'll choose sort of medium gray color for the stones. Same brush, the soft Neptune quill. Probably the same size as well. And I'll just do these rocks real quick. And if you have too much sort of transparency going on, where you can see what's going on through the rock, just give it a few more brush strokes and it'll kind of cover it up. I'll just clean up the bottom of them with the eraser brush, just so they're kind of a little bit more flatter. Okay, I think I'll turn off my sketch and show you how to do the shadows on these rocks. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I have the rock layer selected, and I'll grab that selection tool and set it back to freehand. And I'm just going to select maybe the bottom of the rock and then part of the right side, just like that. And then when I go to hue, saturation, and brightness, and I lower the brightness, you can see it gives it that kind of shadow effect. So I'll just go ahead and do that to all of these rocks. I'll zoom out here. I think that looks pretty good. Just going to add some cattails and some grass now. So I'll make one more layer on top, and I'll try maybe a kind of a light green color, and we'll see how that looks. I think this time I'll use the smooth pen, and we'll see how that looks. Let's try a little bit of a lighter one. Okay, that looks pretty good. So maybe a bit smaller, and I'll just quickly add some grass kind of coming out around these rocks. And I'll choose a little bit of a darker version of the same color, just to add some more detail in there. And then maybe a really dark one. I'll grab the eraser and just sort of flatten out the bottom of those grass. Now I'll do the cattails. I think I can do them on the same layer. Now cattails, maybe the stem is kind of yellowish green, but the very tip of them is kind of brown. Let's see what that looks like. And I think I'll use the fine liner pen this time. So there's my cattails. I think those look okay. Just over here I lose some contrast. So what I'll do is I'll use my selection tool on freehand and just sort of make a selection covering that area with the low contrast. I'll feather that out. I'll go over here to my hue, saturation, and brightness, and I'll just try to get back some of that contrast there. There we go. That sort of jumps off a little bit better. Okay, and I'll grab a brown color to do the ends of the cattails. I think I'll move these cattails over a little bit closer. So I'll just select them like that. Grab my move tool and just sort of nudge those a little bit. Think like that. Maybe we'll straighten them up. There we go. I want to add some more detail to the sort of black forest. So what I'll do is I'll go and find that layer. It's this one here, layer 8. And as long as that layer is selected, I can go to the selection tool again and set it to freehand. And then I can just sort of outline some interesting details kind of out here in the forest. Just like that. And I'll go to hue, saturation, and brightness. And I'll just sort of brighten that up, just to sort of bring that out. And then I'll do another one over here, but maybe a different style. Maybe like a kind of a small tree or something. Okay, and we'll go to hue, saturation, and brightness and brighten that one up. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'll zoom out here so we can see what we've painted. So there we go. I think this is done. I really like the way this turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any questions about this, you can always send me an email directly. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.